Welcome to All New Look Back in Amber, the official podcast from us Newport County fans. From exclusive interviews to interesting inside insights, since 2010, we've been the best place to be for all things audio. Coming up in the next 45 minutes, I'm Lamsey and I'm asking all the big questions.
I'm Stephen and I've got your commentary highlights.
I'm Luke and I've got your post-match interview with boss Graham Coughlin.
Never miss out by following us wherever you find this podcast, or listen live at 2pm on a Sunday and 7pm on a Wednesday after almost all League 2 home matches.
Right here.
Right here.
Right now.
Right now.
Newport City Radio.
It began at 1:30pm in the Marquee with the NCR warm-up team, and they were on fire yesterday. There was nothing at all damaged the amount of brilliance that we brought to that marquee yesterday. It was probably one of our best performances, so I just want to say well done to the team. There you go. The kids from Marshfield Juniors were a handful and brilliant. They had some amazing questions, very different questions as well, so well done Marshfield. And the charity of the day, I spoke to a guy called Al from Newport Veterans Hub, and again he was just on form, really prepared and a really good listener as well. And a blistering and very loud performance from Jump the Underground. It's the first time Joe Crocker's ever come up to me and said, can you ask the guys to turn it down a little bit?
Yeah, you know it's good when it's too loud.
Well, we love our live music, don't we? We're all sat around this studio. We do the football show, but also we love live music. And yeah, that was epic yesterday. Brilliant. Continued at 3pm in the compete with our Chris, who we'll hear from in a couple of seconds, Stephen and Luke. Stephen, talk to me about Bradford. How were their recent form?
Yeah, well, Bradford, they went into this match. They drew their last match against Harrogate and drew their previous 3 matches. Bradford have only one win in their last 6 matches. Their last win came against Crewe in August. Bradford had yet to win away this season and had not won away since March. Only one win in their last 12 away games. 1-1, drew 3, lost 8. A run which started after they last played Newport County in March. Bradford had scored only 1 goal away this season. Bradford had not lost in Newport since the 9th of March 2021. But Bradford had not won in Newport since April 1985, a 1-0 win.
Lots of information there. We'll definitely get on the podcast. We can listen back again to that bit. Luke, how did Newport County line up yesterday with a very injured side?
We have a very injured side. We'll come to that a little bit later, but we lined up with a 4-2-3-1 formation yesterday. We had Nick Townsend and goal, a back 4, Shane McLaughlin, James Clark, Declan Drysdale and Adam Lewis. Midfield 2, Brynmawr, Scott Bennett, with Aaron Wildig, James Waite and Will Evans right behind Omar Bogle up front.
Okay, let's pick up where we left off at 3pm yesterday afternoon.
Hello there. Last season, Mark Hughes steered Bradford City to the playoffs, mainly thanks to League Two's top scorer, Andy Cook, who fired in 28 goals as the club finished in 6th place. As Cook has been struggling with injury this term, the Bantams have failed to rustle up much for their fans to feast on, and only lowly Harrogate Town have scored fewer goals in the league so far than Bradford City. Cook returns to the team today, but will they be able to cope with Newport County, who have the 4th best attack in League 2. Chris Chappell here with you on commentary. Cook's back, and another man who knows his way around the kitchen. It's Stephen Howell.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chris. Good to be here. I think, as we approach kind of a new season from summer to autumn, it's like the dawn of a new era is on the horizon for Newport County, with a big say on the future of the club. But this matters on the pitch that we want to focus on. And these 2 teams are kind of the draw specialists at the moment, aren't they? Bradford have drawn the last 3, Newport County drawn 2, lost 1 of the last 3. So I think it's going to be a cagey one today as well, but hopefully Newport County get the win.
Tulloch tries to dig out a cross towards Cook, and he's got the header in on goal, and it's beaten Townsend for the opening strike of the afternoon. 13.5 minutes played, and who else but Andy Cook scores for Bradford City to take the lead here against Newport. Well, Tulloch did ever so well down the left wing, and if you can just get the ball in the area, Cook will do the rest. Yeah,
he's had a couple of runs in at the defence, and really good move by Bradford. And Cook, he's a bit of a thorn in Newport's side, isn't he? They got 4 goals now he's got against Newport over the course of a couple of seasons, so great start for them, but thought Newport County had been slightly better maybe in the early exchanges.
Trying to get the ball forward. It's McDonald now for Bradford, threads it through, and it's tucked in at the far post by the impressive Tulloch. his first goal for Bradford City after a switch on loan from West Brom at the start of the season. And Bradford have a 2-goal lead here inside the first half. Well, up to this point, they've struggled for goals, but it's coming easy for them today.
Yeah, I think you kind of knew this was going to happen. You knew, looking at all the stats, Bradford struggling for goals, drawing so many games. But yeah, the two wingers, they've caused Newport all sorts of problems. That was a lovely pass, wasn't it, by McDonald to find him on that left-hand side. And he finished it really calmly as well. So, yeah, big task for Newport now, isn't it, really, to get back into this one, I think.
Bogle shrugs off his marker but can't get the ball under control. It's pumped long and Cook will chase Drysdale for it. He's outstrafed him here and Cook tucks it into the bottom corner. Too strong for Drysdale, and County's defence is falling apart here in the first half. We've not even got to half an hour and it's 3-0 to Bradford City. Drysdale back from injury, he just couldn't cope with Cook there. Yeah,
you just can't deal with him, can he? And yeah, Bradford, they're having a field day. They haven't scored away from home since August. They've only scored one all season up until today, and they've got 3 now in half an hour. Yeah, I think Drysdale's struggling and he's lacking match sharpness. But Cook is a big physical presence as well, isn't he? So he's going to be difficult to deal with. But yeah, I don't know what you do really. There's not really much options to change it either, there.
Morris, nice pass to Waite, and then Bogle's free inside the box, round the goalkeeper, tucks it in. That is a quality finish from a quality centre forward. 3 goals down inside half an hour, and if Newport are to get anything from this game, they needed a goal before half time, and they've got it. It's Omar Bogle. 3 for the season now, Stephen.
Yeah, they really needed that, and it was a lovely move in there. Nice pass by Waite, and yeah, Bogle, just the guy you want in that position. Drag Newport County back into this match.
Cross in towards the middle, Cook's header, and it's into the far corner. He's completed his hat-trick right at the end. Bradford City have their 4th of the afternoon. And if it wasn't over already, that surely ends the match as a contest. Andy Cook, who hadn't scored all season and had been suffering with injury, is back with a bang today with a hat-trick to make it 4-1. Well, that was a superb header.
Yeah, brilliant header. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's a good day for him, really. He's got his hat-trick, but not so much a good day for Newport County, I suppose. So, well, with a couple of minutes left now, the results in material is 3-1, 4-1. Don't really make that much of a difference. It's still a bad defeat in my eyes.
Right at the end of this game, we've played the added 5 minutes, and there is the final whistle from referee Andy Davis. Newport County soundly beaten this afternoon, thanks in no small part to the deadly Andy Cook, whose hat-trick means that he now has a very impressive 6 goals in 13 appearances against Newport County. It's Bradford's first win here in Newport since 1985, and just as it is their first away win of the season, it's Newport's first home defeat since April. The form book went well and truly out of the window, and Cook really coming to the aid of Bradford's problems after they've been struggling to score this season. County were nowhere near Bradford's level all afternoon, and have another injury to worry about with James Clark going off. Pretty miserable one for the fans here at Rodney Parade. Final score, Newport County 1, Bradford City 4.
Thanks to Stephen and Chris. Not the result that we were expecting. Probably the most stunned person in the stadium would be the next voice you're going to hear, which is Newport County manager Graham Coughlin.
Yeah, look, we lost the game today 4-1. We were poor. First half an hour was terrible. The goals we conceded is unacceptable. And bad day, real bad day for us all. I feel for the supporters. Players left us short today. Frustrated, really annoyed, really frustrated, as you quite rightly say.
Clearly didn't see this coming. No one saw this coming. It's out of character with what your side have shown this year.
It is, but I've got to look. I don't want to stand here and make excuses, but we've got a patched up side at this moment in time. We've got a patched up side, and I need to get players fit. I need to get players healthy, and I need to get one or two players back from injury. Otherwise, we're going to continue to labour. We're going to continue to limp along. But having said that, some of the individual performances today was just not acceptable. Was just not good enough. When I come on top, we went under, and that's not me. That's not my character. That's not the character and the nature of this football club, the DNA. One or two of us went missing. One or two of us shied away from a fight, shied away from a battle today, and that's what's probably sticking in my gullet. That's what's annoying me the most.
I haven't had to use those words about county players very often, and I presume you won't. Your expectation, you won't want to. There can be no repeat, can there?
Look, I ain't going to stand here and cane me players. I ain't going to stand here and let anybody cane me players. Today's defeat, we didn't turn up, and I've got to look at myself. I've got to shoulder the blame. I've asked 3 players to come out of that physio room this week who've not trained. I've also asked Declan Drysdale to go and play 90 minutes. And that was a case of having to, but it was my decision. It was my team and my players that I put out on the pitch. So the bullets and the punches and the criticism should be chucked in my direction, not at the players. They go out and I asked them to represent me. I asked them to represent the club. Yes, today they haven't, but majority of the time they do. The inconsistency is a real concern for me, and it's something I need to address. But by no means will anybody go after my players. It's down to me, no one else. And the defeat today is on my head, no one else. And people remember that, me, not the players. Don't go near and don't go after any of my players after today. Come after me if anybody wants to have a go or have a fight, because I'll stick up for that dressing room all day long. But clearly they know it wasn't good enough today. Clearly they know they made mistakes. Clearly they know they've let themselves and let the football club down.
For Paul Declan, I guess that's perfect storm. He's not sharp. Comes back. Andy Cook's back. It's sort of how do you sort of pick a player up like that, or is it just a case of, look, you've got 90 minutes, be better next week, you'll be there for it?
Well, circumstances, anybody who's watched us, anybody who's seen us, the circumstances that we're in at this moment in time, we're in a little bit of a storm. There's a little bit of a hurricane blustering around us, whereby decisions, errors, and that can go against us at this moment in time is going against us. So when you get yourself into a situation like that, we need to circle the wagons. We need to roll our sleeves up, and we need to look after each other. We can't go out jumping ship and letting anybody sink. We're all in this together, and we'll look after each and every individual this evening. But they clearly know the standards that we've set, the standards that we expect, and they've fallen below that today. But I dare say that might happen again between now and the end of the season. That's just where we are, and that's just the situation we're in. But yeah, look, the lads are not daft. They know the script. They know what standards they have set. They know the standards that they can reach, and they haven't come anywhere near that today in the first half. The game was practically over in the first half an hour, and that's not happened to us. So I guess I'm still here and probably in a little bit of shock as well. So I'm adamant. I will back my players, and I'll stand with them. I'll circle the wagons, and I'll protect them as much as I can.
You've got 7 days now to put this right. What will you be working on over that week's period? Well,
I'll be, without being I'll be in the physio room trying to help the medics that are assisting us at this moment in time. So we'll have to try and get them fit. We'll have to try and get them healthy. Again, I need to be careful, because it's very, very easy to take a little bit of frustration. It's very, very easy to address that performance and really work them hard Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. But I can't have any more players. I can't have any more players in the treatment room. And they're not. Some of them are really, really innocuous injuries. I suppose, look, I don't want to use excuses, but the amount of games, the amount of time that we're spending in games is always going to catch up with us, and which is why I think I said a couple of weeks back, which is why October really, really concerns me. The backlog of games that we have to play, and the EFL, 2 EFL games chucked in there, and there was no consideration given to this football club and the size of our squad when the West Ham game was rearranged. But we have to go and play it, we have to go and take part in it, and we have to be competitive. But look, it's at this moment in time there's a bit of a hurricane, a bit of a whirlwind whipping up around us, and I just need to protect the lads. I just need to get them fit. I just need to address 1 or 2 burning issues that are eating away at me deep down. And I don't think the answer is flogging them on the training ground. I don't think that's the answer, because I'll lose 1 or 2 more of them. But I'm calling on the experienced lads in the changing room to. It can't always be down to me. I need 1 or 2 of the experienced lads to step up to the plate, take ownership, and help the young lads.
You've said in the past about exploring the free agent window. Is that still, with another injury today to a defender, is that still something that you're looking into?
I've looked into it, but I can't. It's not something I can do.
Okay, Graham Coughlin, Newport County manager. Wow. So, Graham, we're not going to be attacking players. It's not what we do. However, we will need to talk about what happened there, because it's just a shocker. You know, we've been saying for the last couple of episodes that it's great that Rodney Parade is a fortress again, and then suddenly the fortress has been absolutely stormed.
Yes.
Why? Stephen, take me through the game.
Yeah, well, I thought Newport County made a good start. There was a really good effort between Wildig and Evans, but then I think Bradford began to impose themselves on the game, especially with their wide players causing problems outside, and Bradford on times were cutting Newport apart with their passing and with their runs. Cook was winning his battles, especially against Drysdale. Bradford got the first goal. It was a nice move, nice cross into the box to Cook, who loves scoring against Newport County. And then it was another good move for the second goal as well. McDonald, really nice slide pass, found the impressive Tulloch to get his goal. As I said, Drysdale seemed to be struggling against Cook in his physicality, which resulted in the third goal. And then Newport had a little spell towards the end of the first half where they began to improve. Waite, really, really good pass to Bogle for him for the goal. And half time, I think, it was shocking. I don't think, as they said in the press match, I don't think anybody's seen that coming yesterday, especially with Bradford's record. When I was doing my research, I thought I had an inkling maybe that something might happen, but what I thought was it'd probably be a draw. But I didn't see that coming. And then second half, you really want Newport County to come out. They got that goal late in the first half. You want them to come out fighting. You want them to come out with it, on the front foot, and it just didn't happen. I thought they were really poor in the second half. They didn't really lay a finger on Bradford. Bradford were really comfortable defending, a 2-goal advantage, so they could just hit Newport on the break. I don't think we maybe a 1 shot on target in the second half, I think. So and then the fourth goal for me was just a final nail in the coffin. Cook got his hat-trick, and it was just a surprise to see such a poor performance against I think Bradford are a savvy side. Mark Hughes is a quality manager, and I think he set his team up really well. And they showed some nice moves. They weren't spectacular by all means, Bradford, but like I said, they were savvy. And I think it's just worrying. With the amount of injuries, I found one positive thing to come out of that whole game.
There was a positive to come out of
yesterday.
Well, there was the final whistle.
There was that. No. I thought of a positive, and I've got one positive. Omar Bogle scored again, so 3 goals in 4 games. So the one shining light for me from that performance was the fact that Bogle got another goal.
And it was early on as well.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, Luke.
Where do you start? Where do you start with that? As I think Stephen said, started off okay. Wildig, really, really good bit of vision, because he just let the ball run through his legs into, was it Waite or was it Evans? Evans, and then that was a bit of a early opportunity, but they scored within 14 minutes, and then 15 minutes later it was 3-0. We've blown teams away at times with Rodney Parade, but yesterday, was it we've gone 3-0 up within half an hour ourselves, and yesterday was one to forget. We know that Bradford are probably one of the best teams in the league. Really, really good manager who's managed in the Premier League, international manager, legend in Welsh football, Mark Hughes. But when you've got players like Andy Cook on the pitch, last season's top scorer, yet he hasn't scored all season, but he was just coming back from an injury, and he's going to be, goal scorers, they never lose the ability to score goals. You mentioned Omar Bogle. He's a proven natural goal scorer. But yeah, when you concede 3 goals within half an hour, you know something's bad. That's not the first time that's happened. We've conceded 3 goals in one half, and at least 3 out of the 9 games. That's the third of our league games so far this season. We've conceded 3 goals in one half of football, and on those 3 occasions, we have ended up conceding 4 goals. And if you concede 4 goals in a game of football, 99.9% of the time, you're not going to win.
So let's talk shape of the team. So, Luke, how did you say they started off earlier? Just remind me.
4-2-3-1, but then that could change into a 4-1-3-2 depending on what Graham Cochran wants to do. He's got that tactical flexibility.
And then we had the changes, and so we had Waiting Wiltigov, Thomas and Bonswell on, and the changes shape. So that was a weird one, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it took us a while to kind of work out what they were doing, but I think it was kind of like a 4-2-4 when they were attacking.
Yeah.
When they were attacking, anyway, I think it was just an attempt by Graham Cochran to try and create something, to try and cause Bradford problems, but it didn't really work for me, because then you're getting overrun in midfield then. So. And to me, Bradford, they were just so comfortable. There were times Bradford were getting in and around the Newport goal. It just didn't look like anybody wanted to kind of take a shot on, because they were 3-1 up, but they were comfortable. And it was just one of those days. I think yesterday, even Adam Lewis, who's normally, has got such a good delivery from that left side of the pitch, and he was terrible yesterday. I think you don't mind me saying that, but his crossing was not good yesterday.
I don't mind you saying it, but Graham might be after you.
Graham might, yeah. No, normally he's really, really good. I wouldn't get too down on him. I mean, everyone's entitled to an off day. But it's very rare where you get all 11 players have an off day together. It's normally just like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luke, you did the post-match after with Graham,
yes.
And the first question that we've taken out, which was one from the BBC, he was quite short with the BBC reporter. What did you make of the press conference?
Well, normally I'll give you a bit of an insight to what happens with press conferences. Normally,
good, because it says at the top of the script here, interesting insight.
Yeah.
So it's about time we had some.
It is about time we had some. Yeah.
Normally, what happens is we wait down. There'll be me, Chris Code from the Argus, maybe Andrew Penman and the BBC reporter, and maybe one opposition reporter. Wait down by the media area, by the changing rooms, and Graham Cochran comes out, normally says hi to us, shakes hands, quite polite, and has a chat to us before we get going. And then same afterwards, he thanks us all, shakes our hand again, and walks out. There was nothing yesterday. It took him about 25 minutes after the game to come out. We all stood there. It wasn't the warmest day yesterday. We were all a bit chilly. And it took about 25 minutes, half an hour to come out, which you can understand, because obviously he'd want to calm down and he'd want to cool off a little bit. But yeah, he came in stone face, didn't shake anyone's hands, didn't talk to anyone, apart from after the first question was asked from the Radio Wales reporter, and he was not happy, as I'm sure 4,000 county fans, including 3 in the studio today, weren't happy come 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon.
No, and you can slice it any way you want, but this is the measure of the man, isn't it? He could have decided someone's got to come out. He could have sent Joe out.
Yeah.
I had a feeling he'd sent Joe out, because when we've lost before, and I remember last season we lost quite heavily at Rodney Parade. Might have been against Stockport, I can't remember now. And yeah, he sent Joe Dunn out. I think Joe Dunn is a bit more. We've spoken to him ourselves. I think he's a bit more of a calmer head than Graham can be at times when he's caught up in the heat of the action, as we seen yesterday in his press conference.
So what I think Graham did great yesterday: 1, fronting it up.
Yeah.
2, he's just got such colourful language and analogies, and he's mixing his metaphors all over the place. Obviously, he's in a state of deep anger because he doesn't, as we know, he doesn't like losing.
No.
But what I got from that, once you take all that to one side, he's navigating that difficult position between absolutely being upfront about what happened and putting the blame squarely on the players, but also then turn around saying, well, but they're my players.
Yeah, I really loved that part of I wrote it down here, that he's kind of deflected the attention away from the players onto himself. Obviously, like he said, he knows that the players know that they've let the club down, but he doesn't, he's protecting his players, and I don't think there's been too much really criticism of him. It's just a really bad defeat, and so but maybe he was expecting it, and I just loved, that's the kind of guy you want leading your team, innit? The guy who stands at the front and says, like you said, he fronts up and says, to get to my players, basically, you've got to come through me. And I just love that about him. I think it's,
The one thing I learnt years ago when I was working in a professional management environment is there's a difference between management and leadership.
Yeah.
That was leadership.
Absolutely.
Absolute leadership. In a very difficult situation, he comes out, fronts it up, does the honest thing, and goes from there. Okay, so let's see where we go next then. Luke, I think another reason why he didn't go too heavy was because he knows the reality of the situation that he's in, and we're in we alluded to it on the last podcast. Go and have a little listen to the last episode, that we are struggling for fit players. Who have we got?
Not many. So in terms of players who are available, we have goalkeepers Nick Townsend and Johnny Maxted. Central defence, we got Ryan Delaney, Josh Seabury and Declan Drysdale, who Declan himself, it was his first 90 minutes yesterday, and Graham said in his post-match that he probably shouldn't have left him on for 90 minutes, but he had no choice. We've got three really, really good full-backs, Adam Lewis, or four even, Adam Lewis, Matty Bonswell, Lewis Payne, Shane McLaughlin. So in terms of out wide, where we've got plenty of options, fit and healthy. In midfield, we've got Bryn Morris, Scott Bennett, Aaron Wildig, James Waite, Nathan Wood can play in the midfield as well. Aaron Wildig has just come back after a knock. He only got through 60 minutes yesterday, which Graham Coughlin said that's what he could probably do, and I think even then that was a bit of a risk playing him, but needs must. Going forward, we've got Ollie Thomas, Will Evans, Nathan Wood, who can play in midfielder up top, Kiban Rai and Omar Bogle. So, we've got, according to my calculations, that's 18 players available. Obviously, one or two of them are coming back from injury themselves. You can only name 18 in a matchday squad, so we're very, very thin, borderline being only able to make 6 substitutions available.
The upside, and this is a very, very clutching at straws upside, is that we had Seb and Oz in the marquee with the kids yesterday doing the interviews. They were both phenomenal. So that's sorry if you're a Katie fan, I got nothing better to offer you than that. But that's just where we're at. We criticised, I think rightly so, for once, the referee on the last game. In the last game, but on the last podcast. Stephen, talk to me about this one.
Yeah, well, I think we went from one extreme to the other with the referee yesterday. Last week we had a referee who was brandishing cards like it was Christmas. And this week we kind of had a referee who was the opposite end of the spectrum, and I'll explain why. Andy Davis, he's an ex-player. He played for Gillingham, Portsmouth and Yeovil, retired when he was 28 and then became a referee. He was the first person to become a referee who was an ex-player. So I think he's got a really good kind of understanding of the game then, as well as being a referee. And I think he likes to let the game flow. So I think what he did yesterday was there was a lot of things going on, like challenges, shirt pulling, etc., where I just think that he was kind of letting it go. But I think he was probably too lenient. There was definitely times. I know there was one time, I think it was Ollie Thomas. I think he was in the penalty area where I thought that probably should have been a penalty. But there was lots of decisions where he wasn't giving them, because I think he just wanted to kind of let the game flow. It's a League 2 match, so let it be a little bit physical, without going too far. So I think, we kind of, and he didn't give a yellow card until about the 82nd minute, and that was for time wasting by Bradford, and then Declan Drysdale got booked in about the 86th minute, I think. Soon he gave out 2 yellow cards in the whole game, which was refreshing to see. So I think, we can't win, can we? We need somebody who's kind of in the middle of those two people, in
the centre, two extremes.
Yeah. So
I just wanted to pick up on that one because I know you spotted it. Okay, right. Luke, let's try and end this segment on a little bit of a high. Let's try and find an absolutely county man of the match.
Very difficult to pick one yesterday.
I can imagine.
So your options for your absolute county man of the match on Twitter last night, or X as it's now known as, were Aaron Wildick, who I thought was phenomenal yesterday, Will Evans, who got the sponsors man of the match, Omar Bogle, who we said obviously got the goal, and other, which obviously you can let me know who you think in the comments. One or two people said no one. It was one of those kind of days. But before we reveal the man of the match, Stephen, your man of the match yesterday is...
really, really difficult. Do you know what? I think I'll just give it to Bogle for the goal.
I'm going Coughlin again. I picked him last time for the header of the ball. This time I'm going for complete defence of the whole unit.
Yeah, we need to have an extra option of Graham Coughlin.
Yeah, we do. He'd win all the time, I think.
35.5% of people agree with you, Stephen, and Omar Bogle is the absolute county man of the match.
So, Stephen, what's next?
Well, funny you should say that. We've got your questions for Colin Everett, the man behind the plan.
And we'll also have your questions for Club Director Paul Marks.
New football season, new kit, new school year, new uniform. Newport Credit Union will help you through it. To find out more and to see how to join them, search online for Newport Credit Union.
Right here, right now.
Newport City Radio.
Okay, with us in the studio we have Colin Everett and Paul Marks. Guys, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for asking us on. Thanks, Ian.
Pleasure to join you.
One by one, so we'll start off with Paul and then Colin. We'll start with your personal history with the club and your current role.
I'm Paul. I've been a club and trust director since the 2019 elections. So I carry out a role for both the club and the trust. My first vivid memory of following the club was attending a match with my dad, and it would have been around Christmas 77, 78, and I remember it was against Northampton Town, and I remember it vividly because we won 5-3. So really, I've been following the club ever since then. I'm chair of the trust and a club director.
Brilliant, thank you. And Colin, yourself, what's your history and what's your current role within, or just outside the club, I guess?
Yeah, hi Ian, and welcome to everybody who's listening. I started a little earlier than Paul, early mid-70s as a young lad, and I think my first ever experience of Somerton Park was actually taking part on a sponsored walk on the old track that went around it. I've been a fan all that time, long time, very, very passionate about the club. I became involved in setting up the original trust in 2001, which of course now is the trust that we're going to talk about tonight, over 20 years on. And I was a director of the club for 4 or 5 years in the early 2000s when we were a Conference South club.
If I knew back in the day, Colin, you could have popped into my mum and dad's for a cup of tea because I lived right opposite Somerton Park. My mum's still there to this day. So there you go.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So,
and my dad used to be a lay minister at the old Cromwell Road Methodist Church, just behind the Cromwell end.
I know it well. Okay, straight in with a listener question. So Alison, probably slightly wider than what we're going to be talking about today, but what's the most challenging time that either of you have faced as a club director? Can I ask Paul to go first on that one?
Yeah, sure. And thanks, Alison. A great question to start with. I think it's fair to say that doing a role like this, you encounter many varied challenges, which make it probably very difficult to single one out. To specifically answer the question, I think in terms of challenging time, I'll probably say the last 6 to 9 months have been very, very challenging. I just think that there's just been a set of circumstances that we've been dealing with as directors that have meant it's been a challenging time.
And that's led into the process that we're going to just about to talk about. Yeah, great. Colin, not a director currently of the club, but previously. Talk me through that.
Oh, there's so many challenges when you're a director because you're in such a high visible role. And we know football, you can be on the crest of a wave or the opposite very quickly. So you get all sorts of pressures, whether you're successful or not on the field. But I think going back to Alison's question, I would say the most significant one, because it's such a big thing to do, is to either let a manager go or recruit a new manager. It's such high risk. Managers are big leaders in football clubs. And when I was at the club, we had, during my time, 3 managers, 2 of whom I was involved in letting go, and two of whom I was involved in recruiting. And it's quite tough on a human level. You do, as a director, particularly in a small club, get quite friendly with managers, and even if you have to part ways, it's still a sad and difficult thing to have to do.
And big risks as well, isn't it? Because sometimes it's in really precarious situations, like a relegation fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the field of people who come in, you'll have people who are very experienced, people who are on the up, and you'll have almost unknowns. And you really have to think about the fit of the manager at that time. It's a really difficult decision to make, high risk all round.
Okay, we're really pressed on time. You guys have done such amazing things to the club in the last couple of weeks. So let's get down to the actual process of what's happened, what Thursday will be all about, and potentially a little bit about what happens next. So slightly different to what we normally do on Look Back in Amber. Stephen?
Yes, a question for you, Colin. Could you give a summary of the key points from the open meeting in August?
Yeah, the August meeting was the third in a series of trust or open supporter meetings that were held over the summer. And the context was very much, we're facing financial challenges. It's difficult to keep running a League Two club at this competitive level on a trust model. That's the context. When we got to the August meeting, it was very much opening up everybody's minds to the fact that we were, as had been explained earlier, looking at a hybrid model where we'd bring in an external investor alongside the trust to run the club in a different way. So really, August was very much, we were saying, we are looking to move to the hybrid model. We've got a couple of live bidders that we're working with. We wanted to bring you all up to date, and we did say at some point towards the end of September, and here we are this week, we would hopefully be in a position of a big meeting with a big decision in front of us. So Thursday is a special general meeting. It's for the trust members to vote on whether they think a new preferred bidder taking a majority ownership, with the trust still being alongside, is the right way to go for the club. That's what Thursday is all about, and it will be a ballot of the trust members present.
Yeah, Colin, can you just explain a little bit how you set about your brief?
Sure. I was asked by the board to come and join in June. I'm not a board director currently. The current board, to its credit, has a huge job in running the club day to day. Wanted somebody extra external alongside it to take the load on doing this and to bring a degree of independence. So I was asked to be, if you like, in simple terms, a go-between between the board and bidders, to introduce them to each other, to help do due diligence for both parties, and to get to a point where I could advise the board on bids in front of it. Here we are, a few months later on, and we've had the privilege of having two serious, competent bidders in front of us. The board has made a decision on which one they think is the best fit for the club at this point in time, and that's what will be put before the trust members on Thursday.
Okay, very clear. Paul, do you want to pick up anything from those points?
Yeah, just a couple of things if I can, Ian. I think, firstly, for Colin to describe his role over the past couple of months as a go-between is probably the undersell of the year, because he's undertaken a really, really important piece of work for the board, for which we're very grateful. And just to reinforce what Colin said there around the background and the context, we'd had a couple of meetings during June where lots of things have been discussed, but certainly towards the second meeting, we'd began to debate and introduce some of the themes that have ended up feeding through now to where we find ourselves in August. And we originally introduced the work that Colin was going to be doing during the meeting in June. So I think where we find ourselves now from August is the culmination of that initial process that Colin's been working on over the summer.
Okay, so we've got a couple of listener questions in. Very difficult to know where to squeeze them in because there's so much going on with this whole process. So let's take Luke Jones's question. Will the two directors on the board, on behalf of the trust, be voted on?
Okay, I'll start with that one if I can. So thank you, Luke, for the question. The short answer to your question is yes. What the trust, of course, will need to do is consider how the process of elections works moving forward. And it's highly likely that there's going to have to be at least one, maybe more than one, general meeting for trust members to discuss that and other constitution/policy related issues.
Colin, any thoughts on that one?
Well, if the trust vote in favour of bringing Hugh Jenkins in on Thursday, Hugh Jenkins in his bid has committed 2 places on the board, and this stresses this relationship going forward between club and trust as what we call a hybrid model rather than the current trust-owned one. For a period of some weeks, the current board will have to stay in charge because Mr. Jenkins will have to go through the EFL process that could be possibly 6 weeks before he's confirmed by them as the new owner. But at that point, Paul's right, the trust will need to re-meet to decide how and who it wants to elect, appoint to go onto the boards to work alongside Hugh Jenkins. And I'm sure, given Hugh Jenkins' background and the way he sees the trust, he'll want to play a role in that. I'm sure he'd say, I would like people with these sort of skills, time and commitment, but ultimately it's down to the trust to put its own people up.
Because I guess now there's going to be a wider difference between the trust and the club. Am I right in thinking that's the way it's going to go?
Yeah, the club and the trust currently are different legal entities, but we've got the same group of elected people running both. Such is the nature of being a trust-owned club. It's inevitable. Yes, it will be very much a partnership model going forward, but different. I think a lot of people would welcome that because traditionally trusts are there to support but also challenge the board of the directors and make sure there's transparency and people are held to account. And perhaps it's all got a little close for some people where they're confused about how it works. So a board with two trust directors who can do exactly that, support and advise and hold to account, would be perhaps a fresher model that lots of supporters would like to see.
Chris Davis has asked quite a big question around exactly around that relationship. He's been absolutely amazing on Facebook and really trying to straighten things out. So let me ask the question and see whether you guys can just help us out with the answer with it. So to what extent is the initial and further investment dependent on the ongoing contribution of 100k upwards from the trust? And has Mr. Jenkins indicated it will be a deal breaker if significantly less contribution is received? There we go.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for the question. I know I've got to know Chris quite well over recent weeks. We had a good chat on this very question in the marquee before the game on Saturday. I doubt it's going to be a contractual issue in the way Chris is asking. It's an expectation that the potential new owner would have. And I think that's something that Hugh Jenkins would need to work through with the trust. I think they would expect it as an ongoing commitment, a goodwill gesture. It'd be hard to turn into a contract, except, of course, if the trust remaining a good financial contributor is essential to have as many as two people on a board, we've just discussed. That might be a contractual condition. I think it's just something for the new owner, if they're in, to work through with the trust and how that works in practice. But you would expect somebody coming into a trust-owned club to want to see the trust to be alive and kicking, and one of the things it does is to continue to raise funds.
Okay, Paul, any thoughts on Chris's question?
Another great question from Chris, so thank you, Chris. I think, agree with what Colin said there. What I would say is, and I'd encourage this of anybody who's coming along on Thursday night, if this is a question that really, really matters to you and you want to get a better understanding of what Hugh's thinking is, then ask the question and see how he responds. Would be my view.
And we should also remember, Ian, that there are a number of EFL clubs elsewhere where the trust are significant but minority shareholders, where they continue to raise funds and work well with the owners, and in some cases continue to have representation at board level. So this isn't a new thing, but we've got to find the balance here between what the trust can do and what Mr. Jenkins would expect.
It feels that certainly after the Fandom report, this is kind of seen to be good governance anyway.
Yes. Yeah. I would say so. And I think in the difficult times that the club has been in, just people want clarity and transparency, and good governance is something that all clubs want to have.
Yeah, talking about the trust and the vote, can you just remind us what are trust members being asked to vote on, please?
Okay, they're being specifically asked to vote for or against the preferred bidder. The preferred bidder being Mr. Hugh Jenkins, based on the proposal that we've already put out in the media that all trust members have had. That's it. A number of people have asked questions about process, and if there's a second bidder, could they also be available on the night? That isn't the position, that isn't the process. We're not voting for the process on Thursday. We're voting simply, do people think the preferred bidder is the right fit? and if so, then they know how to cast their vote.
What will the format be for the meeting on Thursday?
Sure, it's a big meeting in importance, and it's a big meeting in the number of people who will be there. We're expecting around 350 trust members to be present, and also over 100. I think that's right, Paul. Now over 100 have appointed a proxy voter. If they can't come, they've appointed somebody else to vote on their behalf.
That's correct.
So logistically, it's a big meeting to manage. So for those who are listening, an appeal, there will be more information going out. Please arrive no later than 6:30. We want to kick off by 7, and we've got a lot of people to register in and give information to. The format will be Paul is chairing and I'm facilitating. So once we've done introductions, we've explained the background and the process, we will then explain why Hugh Jenkins is the preferred bidder, what the board of directors saw in him and his experience and his proposal to pick him as the preferred bidder by unanimous vote at the board level. Hugh Jenkins will then be invited in, and we want to give as much of Thursday night as we can to this slot, where he'll talk and listen and answer questions, and people can get to know him and hear it for real. It's one thing reading something on paper, it's another one having somebody in the room. Mr. Jenkins will then be asked to leave, and at that point we conduct the ballot. And we will be counting the votes on the night, and we will be announcing and publicising the result on the night. We think this is probably about a 3-hour meeting, from about 7 till 10 at the latest, hence the need to start on time, and the appeal, please get there early and get seated comfortably, ready for 7 o'clock.
And the vote in favour has to be at 75% plus, yep.
Yeah, the decision was to set it at what you call an extraordinary resolution rather than an ordinary one. The secret's in the title. It does require 3/4 of valid votes, and that's people who are present or have voted by proxy for the resolution to be passed.
Okay, so I guess Thursday is all about making sure that Hugh's got that platform to not only explain the proposal, because that's the important thing here, isn't it, but also for people to ask questions. Would that be the main thrust of the meeting on Thursday?
Yes. If we are starting well on time, we want Hugh Jenkins to be in the room no later than 8 o'clock, so that we've done all the background at the beginning, so Hugh can be present and we can give that an hour or possibly more. Because you're absolutely right, Ian. It's you want to be able to hear somebody and listen to them and ask them questions and really understand the way they think and where they're coming from. That's the real crux of Thursday's meeting. So people can be assured, and if they're comfortable with it, make their minds up to vote in favour.
Okay. Another 2 listener questions. Nick Horton is asking, what is the biggest issue that needs addressing as soon as funds allow?
See, well, I'll go with that one first if I can. So I think that's a really, really good question. Thank you, Nick. Such a good question that I don't think there is actually one answer to it. It's impossible to say one particular thing, because there's a set of things, of course. I think if I could generalise it a little more, I'd say it's about trying to find the platform that we for us, that will mean that we've got both a successful operating model, both in the medium term and beyond, because I think that ultimately that's what we need to find as a club.
Another question. What are the next steps in either voting scenario?
Perhaps if I pick that one up, if there's a 75% or more vote in favour, then Mr. Jenkins becomes owner-elect, if I can use that term. He's the owner in waiting. I mentioned earlier he would have to go to the EFL acquisitions process, which is quite a complex piece of work, which is how the EFL regulates clubs' governance and makes sure that the owners are fit and proper people. We have no doubt Mr. Jenkins would pass that easily, but it does take some weeks to get through that. And then he would become the new owner and would then be very visible and start directing the club and making decisions, which would be talking points for a point in the future. If the vote isn't in favour of Mr. Jenkins coming on board, then of course we continue as we are. We're a trust-owned club. And I think Paul would agree at this point we would be in a position of some uncertainty. So some uncertainty in that it's not the direction that people felt we were going, this new hybrid model, and some uncertainty because we'd be left questioning ourselves, how can we raise sufficient funds for this to be a competitive EFL League Two club. So we would be seeing the need to convene a very urgent trust meeting to think about where do we go? Do we invite new bids? Do we renegotiate with the existing bidders? That will be quite a challenge, I think, for all the trust members, not just the board of directors.
Just on the latter point, I obviously won't repeat what Colin talked about in the event of a successful outcome, but I think if the members decided to vote no, as Colin said, on Friday morning, the trust remains the sole owner of the club, the majority shareholder, and we would need to, as Colin said, look to call a meeting over the next couple of weeks to chat through with the members which route we then went down, which Colin's just outlined there.
And I think, Ian, if that were the case, if it was scenario B, we are still a trust club, as opposed to scenario A, we are taking on a new owner, then trust members are all really going to have to come forward and take part in quite a big discussion, and some of them are probably going to have to be prepared to step forward and take on some roles. So I think that is a reality everybody needs to think about. We can't have it both ways. If the board of directors are giving you what they believe is a more positive future and you vote against it, then you're going to have to think about a different future with probably different people taking the reins on.
Because I guess ultimately someone's got to run the football club.
Absolutely.
And I think that can get forgotten, can't there? That all the interest and the noise has been about this process alongside what happens on the field, completely out of sight and out of mind. We have a board of directors, volunteers and a small professional staff who have to run the club day to day. People often overlook that obvious fact.
Yeah, last question from Paul Inker, who asks, is Hugh Jenkins going to invest in new players in January 2024?
Thank you, Paul. That's a great question. And that's definitely one that you need to ask on Thursday evening.
Okay, so final thoughts then, guys. What are you expecting, or what's your best hopes for the meeting on Thursday? What's your best advice?
Okay, perhaps if I went first, and just two things. Sorry to repeat the point that I made earlier, but if you're coming, please arrive early so that we can start on time and make the most of the evening. And secondly, just think through carefully before you come what you want to see as the future of the club, what your hopes and ambitions are. Listen to Hugh Jenkins, and then if he fits with you and you think he's the right fit for the club, then that will help you decide how to vote.
Yeah, and I think all of the above. It's a really important meeting with a really exciting opportunity for us. So come along and listen to what Mr. Jenkins has got to say, and then ask any questions that you want to ask, and then make the decision that you think is the right one for the future of our club.
Okay, big day on Thursday. Thank you both again for your time. Really appreciate it, and we'll be watching with interest. Luke and Stephen will be there, so all the best for Thursday, guys.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Broadcasting in digital stereo.
Right here, right now.
Newport City Radio.
Okay, so let's talk about the next couple of games. So it's a busy time that we didn't really need, isn't it?
No, we're stretched as it is. We don't need more games to stretch our squad even thinner.
So we got 7 days to get everything all back together again. Graham Coughlin in the repair room, making sure that everyone's all surgically fixing all the players. 7 days to next Saturday, where we're away to Salford. Saturday, 30th of September. Baseleg Food Festival. Just to let you know, so we're going to be there a little bit. And we're at the Dragons. We're changing spots. But back to football. Stephen, what do you think the score's going to be?
Oh, yeah, we've got a terrible record at Salford, and we're playing them probably at the wrong time. But and again, looking at that, similar to the Bradford game where Bradford hadn't won away, Salford, they've lost their last 3 at home. They haven't won at home this season. We've lost the last 4 against them in League 2. Only 1 win in 9 meetings. Yeah, so given all that, I think Newport County are going to win 2-0.
Okay, brilliant. Given all that, yeah, well, why not? Because Bradford have just done that to us, so let's go and do it to Salford. Luke?
I think we'll scrape a 1-0 win.
Okay. Then home on Tuesday, so finally Tuesday matches are back, 3rd of October, Colchester the visitors, and it's an all request disco in the marquee. That's what we're going to do on Tuesday matches now. Luke, we'll go Stephen, what's your score going to be?
Yeah, well, obviously Graham Coughlin's former team, and the first team he actually managed us against as well, so we like playing Colchester, so I'll say we're going to win 3-1.
Okay.
Yeah,
Luke?
Joe Dunn's former side as well. I know we beat them twice to Rodney Parade last season in League and Cup. I'm going to say 2-0 Newport.
Okay, brilliant. Then, again, home, Saturday the 7th of October, Harrogate are the visitors. Live music from Big Ben Yendall in the marquee.
I love Big Ben.
Looking forward to seeing Ben. Stephen, score prediction.
Harrogate, 2-0.
2-0. Okay, fantastic. Luke?
3-0 Newport.
Okay, sounds really good to me. Okay, in amongst all the craziness of what's going to happen in the next couple of days, I've got an idea for you all, yeah? Why don't you just chill out, take it easy, grab a cup of tea, maybe a nice big 3-course lunch, and listen to our podcast with Mark O'Brien, because he is phenomenal in it.
It was a really, really good interview.
You still need to read the book,
Yeah.
but if you don't like reading, this is probably going to be the next best thing. It's almost the audio book, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
It's the unofficial audio book. So there you go, on the official podcast. Thank you for taking time out to listen today. As always, we'd love to read your thoughts about our thoughts on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram via a direct message. We're also on email, so it's a new email address, contact@newportcityradio.org. We will catch you on Sunday, the 8th of September, October at 2 p.m. as we continue to look back in amber at the 23-24 season. More talking points, more banter and more top-class analysis.
Right here.
Right here.
Right now.
Right now.